everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Aradhna and today I'm here with a review of Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, and we're gonna do the full-fledged review of this book. This book is like recommended in the UGC NET paper and in MA as well, and in sometimes it's in bachelor's as well, and it is important because it has been called as the first novel ever written in English literature, so I guess that's why this book is important. But this book is like really boring according to me because I really had a terrible time reading this book. So let's take a deep dive into the character of Robinson Crusoe and what this book is all about. So we're gonna do the full analysis of this book, as this book is very important from the literary perspective. So let's get into it. So the first and foremost thing you need to know about Robinson Crusoe is that Robinson Crusoe is not the original title of the book, because the original title of the book is way too long. That's why it has been cut short to the just the name of the protagonist of the book, and the original title of the book is The Life and Strange Surprising Adventures of Robinson Crusoe of York Mariner, who lived 8 and 20 years all along in an uninhabited island on the coast of America near the mouth of the great river of Orinoco, having been cast on the shore by shipwreck wherein all the men perished but himself, with an account how he was at last as strangely delivered by pirates, written by himself.
So I think it would not be wrong to say that Daniel Defoe literally wrote the story of the book in the title itself,
which is not weird for him because he has done it in almost all his books. In Moll Flanders as well, he has written down the topic is so elaborate, and the main title that has been adopted right now is Moll Flanders, and that happens in almost all of his books, so that's not weird at all. But yeah, it is really it gives you spoilers in the in the title itself, so it's kind of it becomes a little boring. Believed by many people at that point in time that Robinson Crusoe is like a real person who has written down all his adventure stories in this format, because a lot of book also came out after this book as well. So the story of Robinson Crusoe is based on this person called Alexander Selkirk, who was a Scottish castaway and who spent 4 or 5 years on this Pacific island, and that's where the story comes from. But the story of Robinson Crusoe is kind of elaborated in a way, because Alexander Selkirk lived for 4 or 5 years, but Robinson Crusoe lives for a span of 28 years, which is huge. It is almost his half of the prime of his life he spent at the sea. So it was it's kind of that makes it a really a thrilling story, because it is not an easy task to do that, and that's what make Robinson Crusoe to be such not an ideal hero, but kind of a daring hero who took all these kinds of challenges, and that makes it the ultimate adventure story of all time. So yeah, that is the thing about Robinson Crusoe. Now, as we have established the foundation of the novel and how the novel was inspired by a real person and his adventures, now we need to look at some of the important facts about this book, which are a lot actually. So one interesting fact about this book is that Jonathan Swift, who is famous for his work Gulliver's Travel, what he did was that in his book he parodied the adventures of Robinson Crusoe, and the stories written in that genre. More specifically, he parodied the kind of adventure stories, the kind of exaggerated adventure stories that were published at that point in time, but mainly his focus was on Robinson Crusoe while parodying it in his book Gulliver's Travel. Another interesting fact about this book is that James Joyce, the Irish novelist, was really in love with Robinson Crusoe. He really liked it, and he even called it the English Ulysses. Ulysses is a book that is one of the most famous works of James Joyce himself, so he called it the English Ulysses. The last and most interesting fact about Robinson Crusoe is that Robinson Crusoe is not a single novel, it's a trilogy, and there are 2 more books that were published after the publication of Robinson Crusoe, and those were, number 1 is The Farther Adventures of Robinson Crusoe. It was published in 1719, and the 3rd book was also published, which is The Serious Reflections During the Life and Surprising Adventures of Robinson Crusoe, with his vision of the Anglic world. So these are 2 novels that were again published afterwards, because after the success of Robinson Crusoe. So it's kind of a trilogy of a book. So now that we have established the basic foundation of this book and how this book came into being, let's talk about the very brief summary of this book, because there is really no summary of this book. It is just like the adventures of Robinson Crusoe. So the most important thing to know about Robinson Crusoe is that Robinson Crusoe is a man in his 20s, and he wants to have an adventurous life, and he wants to really explore the sea and wants to go to places he has never been to, and he really wants to spend the whole of his life like that. But his father wants him to become a lawyer, but he does not not want to become a lawyer, and his father is like, I'm not gonna give you a single penny if you don't do that. And then he's like, yeah, okay, I will become a lawyer. But he really did not get into the law business, and he's like he's really bad at that, and he says that I cannot really do that, this lawyer thing and this 9 to 5 job kind of thing. He does not want this boring job. So what he does is that he gets on this ship which was going to a farther place, and he is like, I just want to explore all these kinds of things, and there is a shipwreck and all these things happen, and then he lands on this uninhabited island where he spends 28 years of his life, and that is the story of Robinson Crusoe. Everything else is in this book, that what kind of adventures does he have. He meets these cannibals, he meets this person called Friday, whom he names Friday. So we're going to talk about that later in the video. So these are the kinds of things that happened during the course of his life, during the course of these 28 years, and afterwards he comes to his home, and he sees that his father has given him money, which is one of his aunts, I guess, or has saved up for him, that whenever he'll come back, she'll give it to him. So all these kinds of things happen in this book. So this is like a very brief story of Robinson Crusoe. Now we're going to talk about the main characters of this book, because mainly characters are important, and the events related to them are important, and there are very less characters, because it is majorly about how Robinson Crusoe is there, and he's making things happen for himself, how he's cooking food, how he's doing this and that. And for most part, the novel feels like he's like describing all the household chores that he does, that he's cooking, when he's now washing his clothes, when he's taking a shower, and all those kinds of things. He just rambles about it. That's why I think the book is really boring, because it becomes monotonous after some time, and it's really terrible to read it, I would say. So now let's take a look at the most important characters of this book. There are really not many characters in this book, as this book is wholly and solely about the adventures of Robinson Crusoe. So the most important character is Robinson Crusoe, of course. Another important character is the Moorish patron, who kind of captures Robinson Crusoe after the shipwreck, and it's like he is taken a captive there. There is also a Portuguese ship captain, one of the most important writers, who rescues Friday. Again, one is Friday, whom Robinson Crusoe kind of civilizes, and that's how the post-colonial theory is applied to this book, because he's kind of like this imperialistic Robinson Crusoe is like an imperialistic British man who is civilizing Friday, because he's a black man. Friday is a black man. Most important thing about this book is the colonial theory, and how Robinson Crusoe kind of really fits into it. And there is another person, Zuri, who kind of helps Robinson Crusoe get out of the hands of the Moor.